All right, class, good evening. A couple things I want to go over. I'll go over the lesson 3 chessboard. A lot of folks used things that were not covered in the book up until now, which is fine, but you must comment them, and many of you didn't. And also, there's a concept of simple is best. So there's no need to use char or ord to gain this output. Master the fundamentals. Learn what we cover in class, learn what we cover in the book, so you could speak to those fundamentals eloquently and actually use them, as opposed to drift and attempt to find a more technical solution for this. There's no need to literally use the Unicode numbers of a string. It's not needed. So what do I mean by that? So a chessboard is nothing more than a range of 8 stopping at 0, so 8 through 1, and then A through H. So we could actually, we'll say letters equal, we'll say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Perfect. We could define the range if we want, but I'll just do it in line. We'll say for each, we'll say number in range, and our range is going to start at 8, stop at 0, so 8 to 1, and count backwards by -1. That gives us 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let me put the right colon there. So here's our outer loop. Well, it really doesn't matter if it's our outer or inner loop. It matters how we print them. So this is a nested for loop for each letter in letters, because now I have an individual number for 8 in my range, for A in my range. So now you should get all your fun-filled. We got grabbed our number 8, A, and then the inner loop will go B for 8, C, D, E, F, G, H. Then when it's done with letters, it'll complete that loop, go out to the outside loop, drop the 8, and go to 7, and repeat from there. Let's see if this will work. So we're going to have a problem here because number is going to be an integer, and we'll just throw it to a string real quick so we can print them together. There is a way you can print them using an F string, but I'm just going to use standard stuff covered in our book so far. And then I'm going to say if letter is equal to quote A. Now this is going to allow me to put my first pipe in. If letter is equal to A, print. I'm going to throw my pipe in. Pipe. And then I'm going to say letter plus number. And then we'll just let this ride first. We're going to have to change it, right? We know we're going to. We have our else statement, which is going to take care of every letter if it's not an A. In other words, we're going to print that value, letter plus number, without the pipe, and we'll leave it at that as well. I'll hit save, we'll call it test chess. I'm going to hit F5, and you see it pops up over here. Not exactly what we want, but you see the A's do indeed have our pipe. So now we have to fix the logic here. Well, how could we remove the iteration of it going on every new line? Well, we could change the end parameter in print. So this is where you'll toss in an end. Default is a new space. We're going to give it a pipe to close that. I'm going to hit save, hit F5. Okay, we're getting there, right? It's not fully all the way there, but we're getting there slowly. Now, the separator is the key, because right now we're separating on a space, and we're going to remove that space. And save F5. Almost there. But remember what we do here, we also have to do down here for other numbers, right? That are other than. Now we may not have to separate these. Let's see how this looks. Okay, it's getting there, right? Not bad. Kind of bunched up. We got our end with the pipe. Let's see if we do a sep here. Let me put that back. Boop, 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 boop. So now we're missing that hard return. So let's take a look at where we're at here. We have our 4 number in our range. So 4, 8 in my range. 4, 8 in my letters. Number equals string, so I just change it to a string. You can also do it down here. If letter is equal to A, so if it's equal to A, print the pipe sign, the letter number, and don't separate by anything. And that's why it's going to print B, pipe and B right there, because it's actually printing this right here is actually this. Or is it? Right? Gotta think of that for a second. That's where it should be, because for B not equal to A, print letter number. Now, when we look at the letter plus number here, got our string, got all our values. Let's see, where am I making the mistake here? Separator and print. There we go. Because now we need to get out of that for loop, and we need to print our line break. And we could do a couple things here. There's more than one way to solve this. Slash n, we'll just do a new line, and we'll call it a line break, and we'll separate with nothing. And we'll do a line break up here. Line break equals, what is it, dashes? Dash times, we'll try 25. Okay, there we go, we're in business. So that was relatively painless, sort of. But I've done this many, many times, right? So the finagling in the inner and outer loop, we got our line break, missing that top line break. Well, that's nothing more than a print line break at the very beginning. We'll see if how this looks. Oh, syntax error, never closed. Sort of there, right? I don't think we need this. There we go, squared it all up. So that's with no spaces, make it all look pretty, all our separators, all our ends with the pipe. This is everything we covered up until now. No need for char or ordinal. That just adds a layer of complexity to an already complex thing, right? Simple is best, remember that. But that's pretty much it. That's probably one of the more optimal ways to draw a chessboard other than importing chess and doing print board. But of course that wasn't covered. And that's it for lesson 3. We'll go ahead and move on to lesson 4, which is super awesome. Lesson 4 is probably one of my favorite lessons because you learn how to reutilize code. Now, we kind of did that in a loop. You can kind of think that's reutilizing code going in a loop, but it's not really. It's more linear, right? This, creating functions, define and calling functions, local variables, passing arguments to functions. In other words, passing objects into functions, receiving objects from functions, returning the values is receiving objects from functions. Math module is storing functions in modules. A module is nothing more than saving it as a .py file or a .pym file. Both of those, the file of .py and pym, are considered Python modules. But let's dive into what functions are. You've been using them all along. So let me go ahead and run this. Probably get a couple errors, but that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. Let me see. Cool. We'll just run at a time then, no big deal. So I'll close this one, open up a new shell. Pull that over here. Talk about functions. Well, like I said, let's see, I got some puns in there, super fun. Haha, function, get it? So certain functions you've been using all along: format, range, print, dir, integer, type. Those are built-in functions to Python. This entire lesson focuses on building custom functions to do whatever you like. You know, functions are best when they focus on doing one thing very well. Wrapping an entire program in one function, you can do that. It's kind of lazy. You kind of lose the ability to call on certain things, certain functions or routines, algorithms to perform that one function over and over if you wrap it all up in one function, don't break it out into others. Like min and max are a good example. They're functions that we know very well that do one thing very well, right? They show you the min and max of objects. Awesome. Length function tells you how many items are in its argument, which is pretty cool, right? Saves you a lot of time. Cool stuff. And how we define our custom functions is just with the def keyword, which is short for defined function. And then you follow with parentheses, which will hold its parameters. So def, the function's name, which if you follow the naming conventions on how to build or name good variables, they're pretty much the same. Don't lead with an underscore or special character or an integer. Don't use a keyword and make it legible. And you can't have spaces in it, right? So define function name, followed by parentheses. These will hold parameters later. And then a colon, that's your definition statement. Then underneath there will be all your script block or your script statements that this function will perform. So here we have a say hello. We'll do this all in the shell real quick. Say hello. I hit enter after the colon. It instantly tabs me over. And I'll just say print hello class. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm back to the greater thans. I'm back to my where I should be in my shell. Now I could do a dir on say hello, and we'll see that it's available. It's ready to load. It's ready to rock and roll. Python knows what it is. It's part of its library. You could also do a help on say hello, which we didn't get into this yet, but help knows that it is a function and it's in the double underscore main module, which means it's running in main memory space. And here we have our help say hello. We could also do a type. Let's say hello, and it comes back and tells us it's a function. We define the function here. We defined it, hit enter. If we do an ID on say hello, we can see that it's housed in memory in the shell at this time, so it is available to call. Say hello, open close parentheses, hit enter, and the function does exactly what it's designed to do. It prints hello class. Now we can call on this as many times as we want. It's reusable code. Cool. So that's a simple print function, right? And now we have say hello with a say hello one with a parameter. Let's define this one. So I'll get rid of that. Just do this. I'm gonna hit enter. So now we're gonna say for y in range. I spell range right. Of 8 stopping at 0, something we're familiar with, right? For print x. We'll see if this does the trick, right? So I'm gonna say hello one. So now we have to check this out. Missing one positional argument x. So it's actually looking for x. What does this mean? Well, if we go to run it and we put in here an integer, we'll say hello x. We'll say hello. X could be anything. Let's give it a string name and we'll say Steve. I'm going to hit enter. Now where that X is mentioned in the parameter, it's going to be replaced in the script statements. Oh, what happened there? What do you think happened? So let's talk about this. Say hello, Steve. I passed it. Steve says print X, but where'd it get lost at? Did I define the function incorrectly? Let's see if I remove that. There's a syntax error. So now this is beautiful. You're starting to see all the things you could run into, right? Let's just get rid of this range. Simple. We'll just say print X. Rerun it. Say hello one. Give it Steve again. And now you see that it prints out Steve. Cool. Not necessarily what we wanted though. That range for each item in my range of print X. We're going to come back to that. We're going to do full circle here in a minute. But at the end of the day, this is how you pass it a single parameter. When you fill that parameter with a value, it's called an argument. Right? No big deal. Now, you could also start to design your code. Know you need a function to do something. In this case, we know we need to design a function that does some math, and you could use the keyword pass and hit enter. Now, it's defined, it's available, but when you call on do some math, it just does nothing. It passes. There's nothing to do. This is helpful when you're writing a pretty lengthy script with multiple functions and you're unsure of a function and its full capabilities yet. You can simply put pass, so your script will run the routine and then just keep going without tossing any errors. But it's intended for you to go back and remove pass and add some type of logic to complete something, right? This just prints the lyrics. You call on it, and this is kind of cool. We'll run this. So here we define a function called print lyrics, 2 print statements. And then we define another function which calls on our print lyric statements. So if we call on print lyrics, it should print twice. If we call on repeat lyrics, which calls on print lyrics twice, we should get print lyrics twice, which would be 4 lines long. Let's see if that works. Repeat underscore lyrics. And here you see this calls on print lyrics, which prints this, which is this line. And then this one is called again, which prints that, and you get the second line. Functions can call on other functions only after they're defined. Let's change repeat lyrics, and we'll say repeat lyrics 2. I'm gonna hit enter. I'm gonna run repeat lyrics. I'm expecting an error. The name print lyrics 2 is not defined. You notice I called on print lyrics 2, but I never defined it. And Python's pretty helpful now. It's like, did you mean print lyrics? So you may have fat fingered the 2, or you may have meant to design a print lyrics 2. But since it's not defined, this is the error you get, which is a name error, not defined. And some notes about functions. You could pause the video and read all this stuff. It's pretty much excerpts from your book. Nothing too crazy. And here we got the built-in functions. So some functions require multiple arguments. They could take 3 or 4 or 5 arguments. It's a lot of fun. So here we have one called print the phrase. Let's define this. So print twice. It says the phrase. The phrase is just like a variable, a placeholder, right? Syntax because inconsistent tabs. Well, so just do this, clean it up a little bit. And now when we call on print twice, Print underscore twice, right? We can give it any phrase we want. This is cool. Hit enter, and the phrase was replaced with "this is cool," which prints that twice. Pretty cool. And here it just goes through different variations. This one's kind of cool because it actually calls on the max of spam, and since it's going to print it twice, it prints P twice. Cool, right? I remember that's the Unicode value. That's why your Arden chore wasn't really necessary, because lowercase sometimes has a higher value than capitalized. So that's all fun. See status, this is a test. You can print, that's kind of silly. This is multiple parameters. So you can start to set multiple parameters to scripts or to functions. Super cool, right? So in this case, we define print max with A and B. And what do we got here? We got an if else statement. I'll just copy all that. Paste that there. So now we're saying if A greater than B, print A is max. If A is equal to B, print A is equal to B, else print B is max. Logic makes sense. We define it. We call on print max. And now we could throw it two arguments. We'll throw it a Z separated by comma and a little a. And a is maximum. Oh, what was that getting? I think it's ordinal. Word of A 97. Ord of Z is 90. So in this case, small a has a higher Unicode value than Z, and that's why it's maximum. But now we could use this over and over and compare two strings or two items if they're greater or less than or equal to all day long with one function that we built. Pretty handy. Hi, Brandon. I'm just recording the topics covered for this evening. The cool thing, so moving right along. So right now we've been just running functions and having them print something out. It's handy, but not entirely amazing, right? Here, we're going to use the return function. So what does it do? Well, the return function does just that. It returns a value. So we're defining a function called maximum, taking two parameters. We're running our checks. If x is greater than y, return x, else return the numbers are equal, and y. To store our value, we can give it a variable. var1 equals, then we call on our function, maximum of, and now here the numbers are equal. We'll say 5, 5, and we'll hit enter. Nothing happens. Well, our answer is stored. It's returned to var1. So here we define maximum, two parameters, used our parameters and some logic, decided that if this logic is met, we're going to return the value that we want. Empty variable, call on our function with what we want to compare. It performs a comparison. It returns this value, the numbers are equal, into var1, and then we call on var1. It's there for the shell. If we close this shell, if your script crashes, Python, and you restart Python, Python does not know what maximum is. You have to redefine your function in memory. They're only good for the duration of your script or the session in your shell. That's a pro tip, right? Already talked about pass. Hello does all this stuff. It just prints out those three things. Not really handy. Duplication, deduplication. So here it's just hello with a parameter, and then it prints out the function no big deal there. Hello, Alice. It prints out hello, Alice. That's pretty much it for the first section of functions. They are extremely powerful when you start doing things like run a function to collect the host name, pass the host name to a function that pings that system or systems that start with the first 5 of that host name. You can do all kinds of tricky stuff. Let me pull up the next thing we're going to move to here. But yeah, functions are a time saver. And let's see, this is the next part I want to cover. So this right here, it talks about parameters. And when you define the parameters, when you give them values, they become arguments separated by commas. In this example, we defined function 1, 3 parameters. Now here comes the fun stuff. If y is equal to h, print backwards, forwards, middle, y, return middle. So it's always going to return something into a variable, right? And then here, we're going to empty function, or empty variable, call on function with the 3 parameters. And you'll see that these x, y, and z are fulfilled by a, r, and y. So they will not be x, y, and z when you print them, but they will be variations of the 3 that you filled. We have 5 this. So your first name is R. How did it come up with that? It just says your first name is R and grab the middle. So how did it figure that out? So if R is equal to H, that wasn't the case, right? And it says else middle equals Y. RY is really R. So that's why it returns middle, returns R. Kind of silly, but hey. Now, if you want to do, if this looks like it's set for hold names, so function 1, your first name is blah, 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 blah. Let's see if this is even right. It should be your middle name, but we'll see how this rolls. Let's do James, Steve, Smith. We'll see how this goes, right? Let's see if this logic is correct. Your first name is Steve. So if you add your first name in the middle spot, it would be Steve. But you could go ahead and fix the language up here to be, let's see, print backwards. You necessarily don't have to do this. You could do like print first and put X here, just X. Print middle, just put Y, and put last Z or last Z here. And then you get your whole name, but if Y is equal to H. So now they're looking for a string called H. Yeah, let's have some fun with this. Print backwards, so we'll do first name. You can do camel case like this, it's fine. And we'll take the first parameter, so X. These are called positional, by the way, positional arguments. Last name. Yeah, we'll do middle name. Should cover it. And now it's saying if it's equal to H, let's say equal to Steve. So if Y is equal to Steve, print first name equals X, well, that would be wrong, right? Because we want that to be Y. It's all how you set it up. It could have been that way, but let's have some fun with this. Let's just run with this scenario right here. Boop, boop, boop. And there we go. We get our first name. Since Y is equal to Steve, it prints first name is Steve, last name is Smith, middle name is James, and middle equals Y, return middle. And here, middle stored in mlet, so it says your first name is Steve. You have a lot of fun with functions. Cool stuff. Now, I know the challenge is walking through quite a bit. I don't want to go too off the deep end this week. I kind of want you to get comfortable with using functions for a while before we start really ripping into them. Next week, I want to cover, I want to get into more args and quargs, which are arguments, keyword arguments, and default arguments. But I think right now you have enough on your plate to understand how to define a function, how to call a function, how to pass a function, how to add parameters to your function, how to use everything we learned up until now to add logic to your function, and as well as how to return a value from a function and pass it to another function. That's quite a bit. Yeah, watch this video, for those of you who are first checking it out, go back, watch the parts that kind of confuse you, send me questions, go through the other videos on the course, do the challenges. They all line up with these concepts. And next week, we'll cover quargs, args, and we'll have some more. I'll talk about generators too, what a generator is in Python, because they'll save you some time and a lot of time and compute power, but they're very similar to functions as well. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the video for this evening.